Begin today the Gemara on Daf Lamed Zayin, 6 lines down from the top of the Yamud, where it says Mistamach. So the Gemara before brought that Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was mater, the Isser of eating from Shemen Akum, the oil of Goyim. And here brings the source of what happened that Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was mater this, along with other things that he was mater as well. Mistamech va'ozlo Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was walking and he was leaning on a kasvei that Rab Simlai Shamei, on the shoulders of Rab Simlai, which was his servant. Just to mention again, we learned before, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was a grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Amalei Simlai, so he says to his servant, Rab Simlai, that Simlai lo yisa emesh beveis hamedrash, you weren't with us yesterday in the Beis Medrash, keshehitarnu es hashemen, when we were mater to eat from the oil of Goyim. Amaloi, so Rab Simlai tells him, B'yameinu tater afes hapas. If you're able to be mater oil, so in our days you should also be mater to eat from the bread of Goyim. Apparently they had a hard time with that as well, to have bread. Amaloi, so Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya refused to do this. He said, because in Cain, if I'll be mater to eat from bread of Goyim as well, then Korolam Beis Din Sharia. We're going to be titled as the Bezdin that always gives a tatum, the Mekel Dige Bezdin. And that he didn't want to go that far to get such a kind of a title of such a Bezdin. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, that Heyid Rabbi Yesi ben Ye'ezeh ish tzreida, or the word Rabbi should be taken out, he's brought in Pirkei Yavis, it's without the Rabbi Yesi ben Ye'ezeh ish tzreida, he testified about three things that he said in a heter. The first one was al ayal kamtza, that the ayal kamtza, that it's dochen, that it's tired, that it's good, that it's mutter to eat. And this is a certain grasshopper, as we'll see. The Gemara will explain exactly what the story with this al kamtza, why there was a suffix about it, if it's kosher or not. He also testified a second thing, val mashke beis mit b'chaya dochen, that on liquids, which is found in the beis mit b'chaya, which is that area in the Azara, on the north of the Mizbeach, where they shechted the animals, they had rings there, they shechted the animals, and then they would remove the hide of the animals, and there was blood there, and there was water that was used for that. All that mashke in that area is dochen, it's not tomei. The Gemara will explain soon also. There's a machlokes about this between Rav and Shmuel, exactly what this means. The third thing was, val the yikrav lo mise misav, and the one that touches a body, a dead body, becomes tomei. Now this last thing, the Gemara will explain, because the fact that a person becomes tamei is actually a chumrah, not a kula, and it's also menatayra that you become tamei. So the Gemara will explain what exactly this third thing was, and it was actually a kula. And because he was mekel, he was lenient with these three things, v'karele Yosef Sharia, and he got the name of being the Yosef that's the mekel, the one that permits things. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya says, I don't want to be mater another thing to get this title. Amalei, so Rab Simlai pressed him on. He said, "V'hasam shara tlas." He gave a heta for three things, and then he got this title. Or a ma shara chada. You only gave a heta for one thing, for the oil. V'shara ma chada achriti. If you'll be mater the bread as well, akati tartan adavyin. It's only two things that you're being mater, so you're not gonna get this title. Amalei, so Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya told him, but no, ano sharoi achriti. I was already mater a second thing, and this will be a third thing. So, what's the second thing that it was mater? And here we get involved in a whole sugya of Masechta Gittin. And this was a third thing regarding a get. The Tanan, the Mishnah says in Masechta Gittin, if a person says, Zeh gitech, he's giving his wife a get, and he says, this is your get, but he says, Im loy basi mikan at shnei masa chodesh. If I will not come back for 12 months. That's the condition. Now, umeis, b'toich shnei masa chodesh. He dies within those 12 months. So he's not coming back. But the thing is, he made a condition that after the 12 months, and that he doesn't come back, then the get will take effect. So in such a case, ain't a get. It's not going to be a get, because the time when the get will take effect, he's not alive anymore. A person can't give a get to his wife after he passes away. Mm-hmm. So in such a case, the only time he could give a get and it will take effect, if he wants to make this condition, he has to add one word, me'achshav. If he tells her this is a get that takes effect now, with the condition that I don't come back within 12 months, and then after he doesn't come back for 12 months, retroactively it takes effect from before. That's what the Mishnah says. Now, V'tani Allah, on this we learned in a Braisa that V'Rabbi Seinu hitiru ali nosei. that are teachers were actually matter this woman that she could go ahead and get married, and that this get does take effect. Which means that even if her husband did not have any children, and usually there would be a mitzvah of yibum or chalitza, but no, our Rebbe said that she's mutter, the get took effect, and she can go and get married. Now, Vamrina, it was said, Man Rabbi Seinu, who is Rabbi Seinu? Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, Beis Dinai, the Sharu Mishcha. The same Bezdin that was matter to eat oil, which is the Bezdin of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, he was the Bezdin that was also matter to use this get. Now, based on what was he matter this? He said, Savri law, this Bezdin of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya, they held Rabbi Yaisi. They held like what Rabbi Yaisi said. The Amar Rabbi Yaisi says, Zmanoi shel shtar mechiyah cholov. The date that's written in the shtar clarifies to us what the intention of this person was. Where did Rabbi Yaisi say this? So as Rashi brings there, Rabbi Yaisi actually did not say this regarding a halacha of a get. Rabbi Yaisi says this regarding a different halacha. When a father wants to give his son a gift, and he tells the son that he's giving him this gift, and that it should take effect after he passes away. La'acha moisai, after he passes away. So the Chachamim in the Mishnah say, in such a case, because the gift is only taking effect after he passes away, he can't give a gift at that point. At that point, there's the regular din of Yerusha, that everybody will inherit the property together. He's going to inherit together with his brothers. If a father wants to give his son a gift, but the father still wants to keep the properties for himself until his son passes away, so then he's going to have to write clearly that he's giving it to mehayoim ulachamisa. So like this, what he's clarifying is that until I pass away, I can use the property, but then after I pass away, then the gift takes effect mehayoim, retroactively from the time when he wrote this gift to his son. That's what the Chachamim say in the Mishnah. On this, Rabbi Yaisi says that if a father gives a gift to his son and he tells him, I'm giving you this gift after I pass away, he wrote a date in this document. The date today, then is when he's writing it. Why is he writing the shtar for this gift today with a date for today? He's making it clear that he wants this gift to take effect. He wants it to take effect retroactively, that his son should have this special gift not included in the rest of the Yerusha. So Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya and his best learned out from what Rabbi Yaisi said regarding this money matter that we could apply the same regarding a get. That by a get, the fact that a person writes a date in a get, why is he writing the date? To make it clear that although there's a condition of 12 months, that he won't return for 12 months, but then it should take effect retroactively to today's date when he wrote the get. That was the chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya. Now this connection from this case of the shtar for money, for a gift, to the case of a get, Mefarshim point out, it's mainly a discussion in Masechta Gittin, that it's not such a simple comparison. Because by a get, there's actually a halacha midrabbanan that you must write a date in a get. So the fact that he's writing the date in the get is not so strong of a proof that he wants it to take effect today. By a shtar matana, over there he didn't have to write a date, and he writes the date. Over there it's a stronger proof. But nevertheless, Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya made this comparison, and he was mat to this woman. So that was the second thing that he was already makel on.
What's money mechiyah?
The date that he writes into the get.
You don't need me'achshav.
Correct. That's this chiddush. Even without writing me'achshav, just the date itself proves that it's
the money is the me'achshav.
It's in the place of me'achshav. You don't need to write me'achshav. Exactly.
So what's the chiddush?
That even though he didn't say clearly, he didn't specify that I want the get to take effect me'achshav l'mafreya. So it doesn't clearly say that. The date is just a date. Rabbi Yaisi was mechadish that day he didn't write that it should take effect from there. He's just writing a date in the get. And that date itself is enough of a proof that his kavanah is that it should take effect me'achshav. That Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Hoire. So this is Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, but this refers to the grandson of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, that he taught this halacha, and during his entire lifetime they did not agree to him. Or not only in his lifetime, even the group of Chachamim that were with him did not agree to him in this. Okay, so now, since the Gemara brought up this subject, this heter of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya regarding this get, the Gemara discusses the details of this heter. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer or Rabbi Lazar, he said to Ahu to this elder that was there, that knew about this heter, so Kishar Yisua, when Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was matter this woman to get married, and he said you can rely on the date that the get takes effect retroactively. What does this mean? Were they matter her to get married right away? the loyasi, and that's because we know that he's not going to come anymore. He made a condition that the get should take effect if he doesn't come within 12 months, and he died. So we know for a fact that he's not going to come. So therefore we can be matter right away. We don't have to wait until 12 months are up. Or perhaps only after 12 months, the ha'ikayim leitnoi, that's when the condition is actually fulfilled. Right, so some Mefarshim explain, the Rishonim, some of them explain that be'emes, it's clear that you don't have to wait until after 12 months. We know that he's not coming anyways, so the condition is fulfilled right away. But it's sort of a mata sign. Not everybody will know that this person passed away, and they see that they're being mata this woman to get married before this condition is fulfilled. Or we're not concerned about that mata sign. We allow her to get married right away. But other Rishonim say that no, that the Gemara here is asking a more fundamental question. That when you make a condition, even if you know for a fact that this condition will be fulfilled, but the fact that it's still in the potential is not enough. It has to actually be fulfilled when it's already 12 months. That's the shaila. So the Gemara says, they've said to Rabbi Zara, why are you asking this question regarding this psak din of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya according to Rabbi Yosi? You could ask the same question on Masnisin directly on the Mishnah itself. The Tanah, when the Mishnah says, a person gives his wife a get and says, Mei achshav. He said clearly that it should take effect from now. If I don't come back in 12 months, and then he dies within 12 months, so he's not coming back to have a get. Over here, the Mishnah says, everybody agrees it's a get because he said clearly Mei achshav. The Tanai is fulfilled and it goes retroactively. So over here on this Mishnah, you can have the same shaila. Is it going to be a get immediately? Because we know that the husband's not coming. Or you have to wait until after 12 months. Only then is the Tanai actually fulfilled. So why did he ask the shaila dafka on the psak din of the chiddush of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya? Based on Rabbi Yosi, even without writing Me'achshav, that he held that it still takes effect retroactively. You could ask it directly on the Mishnah. So the Gemara says, Enochanami. You're right, he could have asked it directly on the Mishnah. Why did he ask this Saba, this elder that was there regarding the Psak Din of Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya? Since you were there when Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya actually paskened this, you were there in the count, when they took this count and they paskened this, so I want to know what happened there? How did Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya paskin? Did he allow her to get married right away or not? And from that, I'll be able to learn what the pshat of the Mishnah is. I have the shayla on the Mishnah, but I want to hear from the psak din b'poil what they actually did, and then I'll know what the story with this is. That's why I asked it when you get to this psak din. Okay, now here the Gemara clarifies exactly when is this machlokes here between the Tana of the Mishnah and Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya that said that according to Rabbi Yosi, the halacha here regarding this get is different. Okay, so the Gemara here brings that there's three different possibilities, and we'll understand exactly when their machlokes is. So Amar Abaye says, Hakol Moedim, everybody will agree that if the husband says to his wife, L'kisheteitzei chama min artika, that I'm giving you the get, and the get will take effect when the sun will come out of its sheath. Which means he's saying that the get should take effect when the sun rises in the morning. So what did he mean to say by this? L'chinafke ka'amala. What he's saying to her is that the get will only take effect when the sun comes out. And therefore, v'chimayis balelia, if he passes away at night, so that's a get lachamisuhu. That everybody will agree that this is a get after he passed away, and the get will not take effect. Right, so in this case, as Rashi explains, he didn't say, I'm giving you the get today if I don't come for 12 months, or if the sun comes up in the morning. There's no if here. There's no in. He just said that the get, I'm giving you the get now, but it should take effect, likishateitse, when the sun comes up in the morning. So in such a case, everybody agrees that the get takes effect later. Rashi actually brings over here that regarding such a kind of case, there's a suffix. It's like a person that says, I'm giving you the get mahayim u la'achar misa. I'm giving you the get now, but then without saying any im, he adds and says u la'achar misa. So there's sort of a contradiction of what the person said. He started off saying mahayim, I'm giving you the get now, and then he adds u la'achar misa. So to the person says, I'm giving you the get now, and then he says, when the sun comes up in the morning. So it's a suffix. Was he chayzer? Did he mean to say that the get should be only in the morning? Or is it just like a condition and he really wants it to take effect ma'ayim from now? So because over here it's a suffix, even if you want to use Rabbi Yosi's opinion, but in this case, we're going to have to be machmer and say that the get does not take effect now, and it only takes effect in the morning. Okay, that's one case. Now, in another case, if the husband said, I'm giving you this get, then it should take effect al menas sheteitzecha minatika, on the condition that the sun will come out of its sheath, the sun will rise in the morning. What did he mean to say by this? So here, by using this term of al menas, on the condition, that's like me'achshav kamalei. That's the same like saying the word me'achshav, because when you use the term al menas means the get is a get. The condition is not changing the date of the get. The get is now on the condition that this and this happens. So then the get is definitely taking effect retroactively. So if the husband passes away by night, this is just a condition. And the get mechaimu, and the get takes effect retroactively from when he was alive. As Rav Huna explained this, whenever you use the term of al menas, it's equivalent to saying the word me'achshav, that the get should take effect from now retroactively. So when is the machlokes between the Tana of the Mishnah and Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya that paskin like Rabbi Yosi? The case of the machlokes is only in the following: be'im. If he says im, like it was in the lashon of the Mishnah when he said, "I'm giving you the get now, im, if I don't come back for 12 months." Be'im teitze, or to use this example over here, he says, "I'm giving you the get if the sun comes out of its sheath." So then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi Savala, Rabbi Yosi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says that we follow what Rabbi Yosi said. The Amazman Shtar Mechiyah Chalav. That because there's a date written in the star, so that's an indication what his kavana is. So therefore, even just writing the word im will be considered as if he specified and said, from now if I die, or achshav imati, or like he wrote the word me'achshav if I die. Right, so in other words, the date is only going to be can only be used to be mechiach what his kavana is when it says the word if. How do we interpret this word if? Does if mean that I want it to be from now, or does if mean that I want it to take effect later? So according to Rabbi Yosi, when you have the date written in the shtar or in the get, it's mechiach that the if means that it should take effect retroactively. Rabbanu leslo Rabbi Yosi. Rabbanu disagree with Rabbi Yosi, and therefore v'havalei, they compare this case kazeh gitach imati greda. It's like a person is just writing that this is your get if I die, which means only then. When I die, will the get take effect? And over here, he said that the get will take effect in 12 months, and he died before those 12 months came. Then the get is taking effect then, and it's not gonna be a get. That's the conclusion of the halacha b'negea to gittin, which was one of the cases that Rabbi Yehuda Nesiya was mekel and was mater like Rabbi Yosi.
Rabbi, if you look at the grandson of Yehuda Nasi, the whole thing makes sense what he says, because why is the person doing this whole thing about they'll come back in a year? He doesn't want this lady to have to do yibum with his brother. Possibly. That's the reason why he did it.
Okay, could be misvara. Yeah.
Otherwise, why would he do this whole year thing?
Yeah. Okay. True, but the get is it's a dava chomer. It's with a reish sish, and we have to have very clear to know what his kavanah was. It's not so simple, but yeah, I hear you svara. Okay, now the Gemara goes back to what was mentioned before regarding Yosi ben Yezer, that he was matter 3 things, and he got this title of being the Rabbi Yosi that is the Mekel. So Gufa, here's going back to this in itself. Hey, Yosi ben Yezer ish sreide al ayel kamse. Dochim. He testified about this kind of grasshopper that it's Torah, that it's kosher. And on the liquids in that place in the north of the Mizbeach, that it's not, there's no tumah there. And Valdikra of the Misal, that when one touches a dead body, that he's going to be tumah. And the Karala Yosef Sharia, and he got this title of being Yosef Sharia. So the Gemara goes through all 3 of these things now. My Ayal Kamsa. What is this Ayal Kamsa that he was mater? Rav Papa says Shushiva. This is a grasshopper that's called Shushiva. Rav Chia Ba'ame Mishmei Du'ula Susvil. This is a grasshopper called Susvil. Okay, so the Gemara will explain what's the story with these 2 grasshoppers. Why was there a heta that he had to give for them? Rav Papa says it's the Shushiva. And the Kamiflagi, what's the basis of their machlokes? Bereish Aruch, because this grasshopper has a longer head. Marsava Reisha Aruch Osir. So one opinion here is that when it has a longer head, it's not compared to the other grasshoppers that are mentioned clearly in the Torah, the Chagov and there's 4 grasshoppers that are mentioned in the Torah. It's not compared to them because they do not have a long head, and therefore it's Osir. Or Marsava Reisha Aruch Mutter. And Rabbi Yosi Miyazish Srei the Paskin that no, even though it has a long head, nevertheless, it's still going to be mutter. So Rashi explains the concept of this machlokes that when you look in the pasuk, it mentions only 4 grasshoppers, and all those 4 grasshoppers do not have a long head. So one svara to say is that therefore the Torah is saying only any other grasshopper that's exactly identical to the 4 mentioned in the Torah is mutter. And therefore, if it's different in any way, if it has a longer head, it's not gonna be mutter. And because in the pasuk it says a klal uprat, which means it has to be exactly like it says in the Torah. Or, no, you could say, and this is the psak dinner that the Yisrael Yezer Trade is saying is that there's a klal uprat to klal, which teaches that it doesn't have to be exactly identical. It has to have certain characteristics like the grasshoppers the Torah mentions, but even with a long head and it's different, doesn't matter. What are those characteristics that it has to have? It has to have 4 legs, it has to have 4 wings, and the wings have to cover most of its body, and it has to have these 2 other sort of antennas, or sort of 2 feet in the front, which help it jump around. Those are the characteristics. But the fact that it has a long head doesn't matter. That was the heter of Yaisi b'negei to this kind of grasshopper.
You have to be an anthropologist to know these things.
Okay, as I'm explaining what Rashi says. Yeah. Now the Gemara brings the other pshat. Rav Achia bar Ami b'shmei de Ula Amar. Achia bar Ami, that is, he said that what do they argue about? About is the Susvil. Over here. Susvil beroishe aruch. This Susvil that was mentioned, that has a longer head, kulam le'pligid aser. So over there, everybody will agree that it is aser, because it has to be exactly like what it says in the Torah. Now, what are they arguing about? What they're arguing about is regarding this susvil, that there's something else. It's not about the head, it's the same like the head of the other grasshoppers that's not long. But the story with its wings is that the wings are, the question is it covering most of its body or not? Why? Because it's b'knaf of chayfen es ruba yalidei atchak. It covers most of its body, but mama's just, which means that it's something that just by looking, it's not noticeable. It's not noticeable that it covers most of its body. It looks like it's only covering half of its body. If you'll take it in a lab and you'll measure it, you'll see that it covers just about most of its body. So that's machlokes here. Marsavar, that ruba koldu be'inon. So the opinion that Smata says that it, as long as even a tiny drop, it covers most of its body, it's fine, even if it's not noticeable. But Marsavar ruba de minker be'inon. But the other opinion that Asad is said, just like the other grasshoppers that the Torah mentions over there, it is noticeable. Clearly, you can clearly see that the wings cover most of its body. It's not enough that it actually covers most of its body. It has to be similar to the others, that you can clearly see that it covers most of its body. That was the machlokes about the grasshoppers. Next case, that Yosef ben Yezer said that in the Beis Hamikdash, in the place where there was the blood of the animals that was slaughtered, and then when they washed off, when they were skinning it, all the liquids there are not going to be tummy. So what does this mean? My dochin. What does it mean that the liquids there are tahir?
Why should it be tummy?
Why should it be tummy?
It should be.
If there's something there that touched it, that causes tumah. If something is touching these liquids that causes tumah, will it become tummy? So Rav says, Dochim mamish. Rav says that it means completely tar. The liquids in the Beis Hamikdash will not become tummy at all. Shmuel Omar, Dochim milatame acherim. It's only tar that these liquids, they will become tummy, but they will not be metame something else if it touches something else. Avol tumas atzmon yeshbem. But the tumah, for themselves, they will be tummy. So the Gemara explains the basis of their machlokes. Rav says that the liquids there are totally tar because kasava. Rav's opinion is tumas mashkin derabanan. The whole entire concept that any mashkin, that any liquid is mekabel tumah, is all just midrabanan. Minat Torah, mashkin is not mekabel tumah. And therefore, v'chigazer rabbanan tumah b'mashkin, the almeh, chachamim will geyser that any liquids will become tameh, av b'mashkin be'mit b'chaya, le'gazer rabbanan. In the Beis Hamikdash, they did not include that in their gzeira because they didn't want that in the Beis Hamikdash there should be more possibilities of tumah. Right, so Rashi brings the source that in the pasuk in Parshas Shmini, where it says v'chol mashka asher yishasa, it's a machlokes. how you darshan at pasuk. When you read the simple pshat of the pasuk, it talks there about a sheretz that falls into an oven, and there's food in the oven, or there's mashke in the oven. In the simple pshat of the pasuk, it seems like it's saying that the mashke will become tameh. But Rav darshans that pasuk, when it speaks about the liquids, it's talking about the liquids that will be machsher the foods. It prepares the foods to be susceptible to tumah, but the mashke itself will not become tameh min atayre. So the whole thing is exedim with the Rabbanan. They never applied it to the Beis Hamikdash. However, Shmuel says dachim militama acherim, that the tara here is that it will not cause other things to become tameh. Avol tumas atzmon yeshben. The tumah for itself, that applies even to the Beis Hamikdash, because kasava tumas mashkin da iraisa, he understands the pasuk in its simple pshat that the mashke itself does become tameh min atayre. Latami acherim the Rabbanan, only the fact that this mashke causes tumah for others when they touch it, that's a gzeirim the Rabbanan. And v'chigaz the Rabbanan b'mashke the alma, they only were geyser in other places, but b'mashke bei mit b'chay loy geyser. But in the Beis Hamikdash they were not geyser. The third thing that it said that was the heter of Rabbi Yossi is Sreida va'al deyikrav lemisa. If you touch a mace, misav, you become tameh. And v'karole Yosef Sharia, and he got this title of being Yosef Sharia. So the Gemara asks, Yosef asara mibayale. This last point is actually a iser that he's saying you become tameh. Va'oid deiraisi. This is something which is minatayre, that if you touch a mace, you become tameh. The pasuk says, when a person becomes tameh, he touched a dead body. So then tameh shivas yamim, he's tameh for 7 days, and you have to sprinkle upon him from the paraduma. So it's clearly in the Torah. So the Gemara answers, the iraise the yikrav tameh. Minatayre, if you touch a mace directly, you become tameh. But then the yikrav b'di yikrav toy. If you touch someone else that touched the mace, so then minatayre you're toy. And v'aseinu, the chachamim came, the gazer, and they were geyser that afila the yikrav b'di yikrav, that even if you touch someone that touched the mace, that you also become tamei. V'asehiu, and then Yossi ben Yezer, he came, and v'oikma deiraisa. He came back, he said that we're going to be makel and put it back to the status minatayre, that only if you touch the mace directly do you become tamei, and not if you touch a person that touched the mace. Which means that this is regarding the tumah of shivas yamim. That's what we're talking about over here. That the gzeira of the Rabbanan originally was that just like if you touch the mace himself, you become tamei 7 days, that so too if you touch someone that touched the mace should also become tamei 7 days. And Yosef ben Yezer put it back on the halacha minatayre, and he said that the gzeira of chachamim is not that you'll be tamei for 7 days. If you touch someone that touched the mace, then the person only becomes tamei until that night. Okay, but the Gemara asks on this as well, the yikrav b'di yikrav nami doiraisahu. If a person touches someone that touched the mace, that's also a tumah min atayre. Because the pasuk there in that parasha it says that v'chol asher yiga boy hatomei yitma, that one that touches someone that's tamei, you become tamei. And it's clear in the lashon of the pasuk, it's not talking about touching the mace itself. Before in the pasuk, it speaks there about a person that touched the mace himself, that he becomes tamei, and then it says someone else that touches this person which is tamei also becomes tamei. So this is something that's minatayre. So how can you say that this is something that was exeidem with the Rabbanan and Yosef ben Yezer came and brought it back to the way it was originally? So Amru Rabbanan Kamei de Rave, the Rabbanan said this subject. They spoke about this in front of Rave. Mishmei the Mazutre b'rei the Rav Nachman, and they explained this in the name of Mazutre, which was Rav Nachman's son. The Hama Mishmei the Rav Nachman. He said it in the name of his father Rav Nachman as follows: that the Iraise minatayre, the Yikrav b'di Yikrav, that if you touch someone that touched the mace, and you'll become tamei, and you'll become tamei for 7 days. What does that mean? B'chiburin. That's only if the person that's touching the mace is still in contact with that mace. And now you're touching that person touching the mace, the tumah extends to the second person as well to be tamei for 7 days. That's the case where you see in the lashon of the pasuk, v'chol asher yiga b'tamei yitma, like the person that's touching the mace for 7 days. Tumah shiva. But shaloi b'chiburin. But if you're touching a person that touched the mace, and that person that touched the mace is not anymore in contact with the mace, then tumah serev. Then you'll be tamei, but only a tumah for that night. And Also, the Chachamim came the Gozer and they decreed and said that that if you touch someone that touched the mace, even if he's not in contact with the mace at that moment, you should be tamei for 7 days, like touching the mace himself. And Yosef ben Yezer came and said and brought it back to the halachim and atayre that you're only going to be tamei for till that night if you're touching someone that touched the mace and is not in contact with the mace right now. Okay, so the Gemara explains, so where do you see this distinction that there's a difference if you're touching a person that's still in contact with the mace or is not in contact with the mace? Where do we see to make this chiluk b'chlal? So the Gemara says, where's the source for this? Because the Chsiv, on one hand, the pasuk says, if you touch the mace himself, then you become tummy for 7 days. But Uksiv, on the other hand, the pasuk says, as was quoted before, that if you touch anyone that's tamei, meaning because he touched the mace, you also become tamei, and it's mashma that you're also becoming tamei for 7 days, like the pasuk is speaking about there. Uksiv, and the pasuk says, "Va'nefesh hanegas titma da'arev." But then on the other hand, it says that a person that touches someone that was tamei, that you only become tamei until erev, until that night. So we have a contradiction here in the pasuk. If you touch someone else that's tamei and you didn't touch the mace directly, do you become tamei 7 days, or do you become tamei only until the night? So okay, so what's the answer to this contradiction? So here's the source for this distinction. Kam b'chiburin, if you touch someone that's touching the mace and he's right then still in contact with the mace, you become tamei 7 days. And kam shaloi b'chiburin, if he's not in contact with the mace now, so then you only become tamei until erev, until that night. So this is the pshat regarding what Yosef ben Yezer was matter. Yosef ben Yezer came and brought this halacha back to the way it is minatayret, that you'll only be tamei until that night. Now, Amalahu Rava. So this was all said in the name of Mazutre that was quoting his father, Rav Nachman, and it was said in front of Rava. So Amalu Rava says to them, why are you saying this? Lav Aminaluchu, didn't I once tell you before? Lititlu Bei Buki Sriki Rav Nachman. Don't say things that are like empty barrels in the name of Rav Nachman. You're saying something that's not true. Rav Nachman didn't say this. This is not the explanation for what Yosef ben Yezer came to be matter. Rather, Hachi Omer Rav Nachman, this is what Rav Nachman said. Safik Tumah B'Rishus Harabim Hittelehen. The heter that Yosef ben Yezer came and said was that if there's a safik, whether a person touched Tumah, and where is he? He's in a place which is a Rishus Harabim, that safik Tumah, he'll be tahir. That was the heter that Yosef ben Yezer taught. Completely different thing, nothing to do with the case that we spoke about before, but the case of Safik Tumah and Rishus Harabim. The Gemara asks him this, how can you say that was his heter? This is a halacha that we learn out, that we compare to what it says in the pasuk by the Saita. But the Lashon of the Gemara, it says hilchas, it's mashma that it's a halacha l'Moshe Misinai. But Rashi says that it's learned out from what the pasuk says by the Saita. And that Ma Saita, the halacha by the Saita is she was secluded with a man, and there's a suffix if she had a relation with him or not. And in that case, we're going to ask her on her husband because of the suffix. But over there, when does that Isser apply? So just like by Saita, Rishus HaYachid, she's in a private place, and there, because of this suffix, she becomes Asr. Af Tumah, Rishus HaYachid, so too, if there's a suffix Tumah in Rishus HaYachid, so then we're Machmeh, that it's Tameh. But if it's in Rishus HaRabim, so then there's no Chumrah, over there you're Mekel. So why are we saying that Yosef ben Yezer had to come and be matter this if it's a clear drasha that you learn out from Saita? So the Gemara answers, regarding this heter of a Safik Tumah and Rishus Harabim, Rabbi Yechanan said that this is a halacha, but we don't teach people about this halacha, because we don't want people not to use this as a leniency regarding any Safik Tumah. They may extend this leniency to other cases as well. And Yosef ben Yezer came, and he taught it to everybody. He taught it to everybody that they should know this. Tani Nami Hachi, as we learned in the Braisa as well, Rabbi Yehuda said that what did Yosef ben Yezer do? Kairais na'atz lahem. He took these boards of wood or these pegs of wood and he stuck it into the ground in a place where it wasn't clear if it has a status of Rishus HaYachid or Rishus HaRabim. So he made it clear that everybody should see this is Rishus HaYachid, this is Rishus HaRabim. So you should know Legabi Hilchas Tumah what's what. The halachas of Rishus HaYachid and Rishus HaRabim are not so clear like it is by Shabbos. When you have a field, which is an area that not many people walk there, in the winter time when it's planted, it has a halacha of Rishus HaYachid regarding Tumah. Even though for Shabbos it's not necessarily a Rishus HaYachid. So therefore he made signs that you should see clearly what's what. Right, so therefore we see that he publicized this. And Ba'amar, he said to everyone, At kan Rishus Harabim, till here's the Rishus Harabim, and At kan Rishus Yachid, and until here's the Rishus Yachid. Now, regarding this halacha of Safek Tumah b'Rishus Harabim, Rabbi Yochanan said before that he did not want to teach this publicly to people. Ki Asla Kamed Rabbi Yanai. When Rabbi Yanai was asked about this halacha by people, Amalahu, he would tell them that you have a Safek Tumah in Rishus Harabim. The truth is that it was Toy. But he would tell them, be machmer. Ha'mai b'shekata de benara. There's enough water in the depths of the river that you could be toivel. Zilu tvulu. Go and be toivel. So we see that Rabbi Yanai was machmer when people asked him about this. This was the third halacha that Yosef ben Yezer was makel about. Okay, let's see one more piece over here. We'll start the next thing here regarding bishul akum, regarding food that's cooked by goyim. This is another gzeira the chacham will geyser. V'hashlachis. Says the Gemara Menon and Mili, what's the source for this gzeira that bishul akum is aser? Amar Rab Chia bar Abba, Amar Rab Yochanan, Amakra. We actually can learn it from a pasuk. The pasuk says, Oichel ba'kesef tashpireni v'achalti. When Yidden wanted to pass by through Edom, so the Yidden said that you'll give me food and I'll buy it, I'll pay money for this, and you'll give me water to drink. So we compared the two. They said give us food and water. So we say the food that we can eat from you is only food that's compared to water. Kamayim, just like water. Ma'amayim shlein ishtanu, just like water. You can only drink water. Water is not. Water is as it's created, without any change. So too, you could only eat the food from the goyim if this is raw food, unchanged. But if they cooked it, you can't eat it from them. So the Gemara asks on this, if this is the source of the Isser, comparing to water, that it can't be changed. So elama'ato chitin v'ason kloyes. If you, not even if it's cooked, but if you have kernels of wheat that was roasted, then it becomes kloyes without being cooked like a bread. Hachanami da asurin. Will this also be aser? Because it's not like it's nishtanu, it's changed. V'chitema, if you'll argue and say, yeah, hachanami, maybe this is also included in the iser, but it's not, because what Tanya we learned in Abraisa chitin v'asoin kloyes. If you take kernels of wheat and you roast it, then it's mutarin. It's going to be mutter. So how are we comparing to water? That it's not changed at all. Elo, so the Gemara says we could compare to water, but with a different twist, as follows. Kamayim, we compare to water, ma'mayim shalei nishtanu mibriyasa. Just like water that's not different in its form from the way it's created, af eichel shalei nishtanu mibriyasa. So too, any food that's not changed in its form from the way it's created, that's going to be mutter to eat. So therefore, the chitim that was made kloyos, it's still in its same form as a kernel of wheat, so that's going to be mutter. But once you bake the bread, so now it changes in its form, so then that's going to be aser. Or we're not only talking about bread here, we're talking about shlokos, about anything that you cooked and it changes in its form, then it's going to be aser. Okay, so the Gemara asks on this as well. But elamata, if that's the case, chitin v'tochnon, if you have wheat and you ground the wheat, even if it wasn't baked, but it's just ground, now it's changed in its form. Would this be aser as well, because it's not compared to water? Now, if you argue and say that this is included as well, but it's not, because Vatanya, that Braisa mentioned before we learned, chitin v'asal kloyes, that if wheat is made into kloyes, or hakmachin v'asalte shalehem, their flours or fine flours, mutarim, it's still all allowed. So what's the comparison to water? So the Gemara tries a third option. Ela kamayim, the comparison to water is ma mayim shlei nishtanim b'riyasan al yidei or, just like water that they said that they're going to drink is water that was not changed by a fire, by cooking. So too, the food is only food that was not changed from the way it's created al yidei or, through a fire, by cooking. That's the kind of food that they're allowed to eat. But if it's food that was cooked, they can't eat it. But it's not. It's not baked properly. It's not. It's just a little bit roasted, a little bit that hardens it. It's not considered to be bishul. Okay, but now the Gemara asks on the second. The Gemara asks on this final pshat here to compare to water. How can we make this comparison? Midi urksiv. Does it say in the pasuk regarding this water that they're eating, that they're taking water from them and food from them, which was not exposed to the heat of fire? It doesn't mention this in the pasuk b'chlal. So where do you see this hint of this kind of comparison in the pasuk? So therefore, the Gemara says, "Ela midrabanan." The gzeira of not eating cooked foods from goyim bishul akum is all gzeira midrabanan. Ukra, the pasuk that was mentioned there, asmach the balma. That's they leaned supported in this pasuk, but that's not the source. It's a gzeira midrabanan here. If you look in Rashi, it's a chiddush. Rashi brings the reason for this gzeira was that you shouldn't eat from cooked foods from goyim because he might give you to eat food that's not kosher. That's what Rashi says here. But most Rishonim actually say that the Isser of Bishul Akum is similar to the other Yisurim of Pasakum and possibly Yayin Akum as well. And that is that you shouldn't come to mingle with them, chasnas, and to intermarry. Right. So here regarding this Isser of the Shlokais, as the Gemara here says, it's Isser Midrabanan. I mentioned before, there's a big machlekes Rishonim regarding this because you find the Isser of Pasakum and the Isser of Bishul Akum. According to some Rishonim, the first Isser was Be'ikr Bishul Akum. And then Pasakim what came afterwards, separate Isser, which is baked. Other Rishonim say no, Fakert Pasakim was first, and then came Bishul Akum. It's two different Isurim. They don't have exactly the same halachas. There's certain differences between them.